Welcome to Hastings Outdoors, straight from the Mississippi Flyway to your hearts. Let's go! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Hastings Outdoors, coming to you not live in any way, shape, or form, as always. The camera looks like it's spazzing out. I'm not sure if that's going to reflect on the recording show. We'll see. Anywho, coming to you not live in any way, shape, or form, as always, from the Dream Building Garage, your home for the Hastings Outdoor Studio, the world-renowned Hastings Outdoor Studio. My garage. Come on in, kick your feet up, have a seat. I do recommend, however, if you come into the garage, if you want to join the live audience of no one, bring a coat. It's a little chilly, as you see about my spiffy attire here. It's cold, boys and girls and people. It's cold. It's cold. Craziest thing, guys. I've been kind of waiting on this, but been kind of hesitant about facing it. Here in Norte de Indiana, that's not French at all for you Canadians out there. It's cold. We had a nice cold front come down from the Canadian lands, and man, it dropped temps like a rock. I think it started. I'm recording this on a Monday, so 11/27. This will air 11/28 Tuesday, but yesterday the temperature started to drop. It got nice and cool. Basically from Saturday on, the temperatures fell, and it started snowing yesterday. It snowed a little bit today, this morning, not much. I mean, just enough that you could tell there's something in the air, but it didn't stick around. It didn't hang out, that kind of thing. Just a light dusting on the ground, nothing measurable, but the temperatures are crazy. We went from like 40s to mid 20s, like that. Pretty cool, pretty exciting, because for those of you who are unaware, cold fronts, obviously, in this section of the country, and most of the country, they start from the northern lands of Canada and work their way down to Estados Unidos. And when the cold comes down, oftentimes, fingers crossed, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, waterfowl come down. So, who knows? Kind of excited, kind of not sure what to think just yet. I haven't seen much yet, guys. I really haven't. But, man, I tell you, this forecast, it's going to stay cold. Man, you guys, I don't think you guys can see my breath on the camera. Anywho's, it's not going to stay. It's not going to stay this cold for long. It is going to come back up after this front kind of passes through. And so, in theory, oh shoot, I got to change my location for the weather. That's the weather where I was hunting this morning, which is about the same. But so today, the high, guys, was estimated 26. The low tonight is 18 degrees. And today and tomorrow, the wind is about the same. Ballpark 10 to 17, 10 to 20 with gusts. Pretty steady, pretty windy out of the west. Obviously, that front's coming down. But fingers crossed for all of you guys in the northern, eastern, whatever, northeastern Mississippi Flyway, aka northern Indiana. If you got a chance to get out there, it might not be a bad idea to do it, because according to Ducks Unlimited, I know I'm kind of skipping the intro here, and this is whatever, but according to Ducks Unlimited, I guess it was the Northern Mississippi Flyway report, whatever you want to call it. It's on their podcast. If you go check out Ducks Unlimited podcast, you can find it. It's something to do with the Mississippi Flyway report, whatever. Update, report, migration, I don't know. But that came out a couple weeks ago, I think, and the general consensus was that due to abnormally warm weather for this time of year in the northern Midwest region, the waterfowl aren't really pushing down as fast as we are accustomed to, used to, etc. And so they're just kind of bouncing back and forth. They're kind of stuck in a holding pattern. Oh, flight references. Crazy. But so they're kind of bouncing back and forth, hanging out a lot longer than they usually would in certain places. And so speaking with other waterfowl hunters in my area, no one's really seeing a lot. And so much so that a lot of the guys that I know that hunt waterfowl in northern Indiana, they pretty much given up on it for right now and are deer hunting right now, chasing the white-tailed deer. Firearm season came in not that long ago, and so everyone's getting after it. But so in theory, guys, in theory, I'm excited, but I'm a little pessimistic at the same time. But try to keep it real. In theory, if that Ducks Unlimited report is correct, that means that with this cold front coming down, we could see a push of birds. That'd be cool. And not to sound too greedy here, but looking at the forecast for the rest of this week, like I said, tomorrow, Tuesday, the day this releases, it's going to be a high of 24, low of 18, nice and cold, nice and windy. And then the rest of the week is going to be, the low is 39 during the day. And then the weekend, Thursday it bumps up to 47, dips back down. Just kind of doing that, but it's above freezing, well above freezing. We get a little bit of wind and rain towards the end of the week, but Saturday, partly cloudy. There's a chance of something light-ish wind. It says 7 miles an hour right now. But, so, who knows? Maybe, and the extended forecast looks much the same, low 40s during the day. So, hypothetically speaking, if in fact, the reason the waterfowl haven't pushed down like they normally would, because of abnormally warm temperatures or unseasonably warm temperatures, whatever it may be, in the northern Midwest, maybe this cold front will be enough to push them down a little bit, but kind of keep them around for a minute. That'd be cool. Not so much for, the southern Mississippi flyway. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm gonna take advantage of what I got, and that's all I really can do is make the best of what I have. So there is the duck-ish forecast, waterfowl forecast, unofficially, unscientifically brought to you by yours truly. So we'll see what happens, guys. I definitely have been trying to take advantage of this. I got out today, and I can't say it was a successful hunt, but before I get into the main body of the podcast, which is going to be basically a recap of the 2 hunts I've got in so far. But before I get into that, let's get some official business out of the way. Okay, so now that I'm I don't even know, 8 minutes in? I don't know. Good start. Hastings Outdoors mission statement. For you that have heard it and for you that aren't aware, here you go, guys. The goal of this podcast and the content creation, this is it. And the camera is spazzing out. I hope it records. It's a little cold out here. It is a little cold out here. So who knows? Who knows how this is going to work out? Maybe I can at least get the audio off of it. But Hastings Outdoors mission statement and the purpose of why I'm doing this, other than the fact that it's a cool hobby and I like to do it. Sharing my waterfowl and outdoor experience to promote participation and conservation of our natural resources. Got that out of the way. Okay, so season updates, guys. I kind of already started with that. Northern Mississippi Flyway, the weather's looking good. And I am seeing birds. I'm not seeing big numbers of anything. And usually from Mississippi Flyway, you don't see. It's not lights out. The sky doesn't blacken with the wings of waterfowl. But not as many as I have typically seen in my limited experience. But there are birds in the area. So there's that. So that's kind of the season update. There isn't really a project update, but I don't know. We'll see. So, guys, to get into the meat of it, the nuts and bolts of this podcast, here we go. So, Black Friday, yours truly went out hunting. Now, I had originally hoped and planned to make a trip to go hunting with Alamo, which I'll talk about that momentarily, but it ended up being a solo hunt. I took the kayak out to a familiar spot where I'd seen some birds and seen some traffic, and I was unpleasantly surprised to find skim ice reaching out about, in parts, I'd say a good 10 yards ballpark around the ring of this this big pond, small lake, whatever you want to call it. That was a little disheartening, and the water level was extremely low. That was a pain in the butt, and honestly, if it keeps trending that way, it's not going to be accessible for a while, probably for the rest of waterfowl season, mostly because the bottom of that lake is not conducive to wading. Now, if it freezes up, if the edges of it freeze up hard and you can walk on it, that's a different story. I'll walk out onto the frozen muck and launch a kayak. We'll see what happens. But for the most part, the water level is down a lot. a lot. And so you've got roughly, oh, I'd say a good, on average, about 8 to 10 yards of dry muck. And then out from that is extending the skim ice. And that camera spazzing out is freaking me out. I know you guys can't see it, and I'm sure it's not going to matter, but I just see I don't know, the little screen's flashing. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But so not a lot of water, and then what water is there has skim ice on it. And the last couple of days, especially with the really low temperatures during the day, below freezing during the day, and definitely below freezing during the night, are not going to help that out. Ran into some issues with ice today, but Black Friday hunt, guys, got out there bright and early. Got some decoys set out, and there wasn't a lot of wind, and I took my motion duck spreader and had that set out. It was looking good. I had a hard time finding a place to hide because I didn't realize the water levels were that low from the previous time I'd been there, which was only a couple weeks before until Black Friday. And the water levels were so much lower that the normal hides I would use weren't accessible. And so I had to find a spot where the weeds were close enough to that skim ice to the water, where I could get the kayak close and then hop on root ball to root ball and drag the kayak along the weeds and hopefully get to something solid. So I basically did, I set my decoys. I traveled due north a good ways, probably 40 yards, until I found somewhere where I could hopefully get to something solid, and then did a slight portage back to the portage for you Americans. I always love that word. But a slight portage back to the spot where I wanted to hide. And then there just wasn't good grass there. There wasn't I mean, it looked good, but it was kind of sparse, kind of thin and blotchy. And so I rammed the kayak in between two root balls as best I could. And I went and grabbed some grass and some cattails and stuff and tried to grass it as best I could. And man, it was so frustrating. And so I got a whole lot of work, guys. This took a while because I'm walking through knee-deep muck, trying to find root balls and stuff like that, and just trying to make something happen here. It was an absolute struggle. And so by the time I got all that done, I'm sitting in the kayak. I'm not feeling very hidden, I should say. And I didn't have the highest expectations. There was not a lot of wind. And then when I realized, hey, I'm set, I'm good, gun's ready. All right, now it's time to look around, wait. And then I realized that the string for my motion duck spreader was nowhere to be found. So I had the spreader, lost the string somewhere, no wind, and so I didn't have any motion in my spread. And I honestly think, well, with in combination with the lack of birds, really, that and not many birds and not any motion, it was just a recipe for disaster. And so that was it, guys. I think I saw a couple of teal. I'm not sure. They were. The reason I say I think it was teal, which is kind of abnormal, I think, for this time of year, but it was dead quiet out there, and I heard wings. And for those of you guys who waterfowl hunt, you'll know what I'm talking about. On those calm days, you can hear the wings just kind of zipping through the air, the sss of wings. And I heard that. I didn't see them. And then when I finally saw them, they were in front of me, pretty much across the body of water. And, I mean, just zipping. About halfway up the tree line, they looked like teal to me. I don't know. I didn't really get that good a look at them. Oh, my goodness. They were going about Mach 3. So it's hard to tell. But that's about all I saw other than pterodactyls that day. And I call, for you guys that don't know, I call sandhill cranes and whatnot pterodactyls because that's pretty much what they are. And unfortunately for us, we can't do anything about those guys. They're protected, which is kind of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer because all those boys up in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewania, they call them the ribeye of the sky, and I would definitely love to give that a whirl, but that's a no-fly zone here, pun intended. Anywho's, it's so Friday, Black Friday, guys, it was an absolute bust. Absolute bust. Not much going on, and at one point in time, I heard what sounded like it had to be 100+ Canadas northeast of me, not on this body of water, but northeast of me, because it's a really marshy area, so there's a lot of kind of puddles and stuff like that, and half of them you can't really hunt. I think one of them is on the draw system, and so you're really limited but it also gives the waterfowl somewhere to go. I get it, but I hate it at the same time. And so I heard, no joke. At first, in the distance, I thought it was somebody else hunting that adjacent body of water, and thought, oh, those guys sound really good at calling. And then it sounded like a complete uproar of Canadas, and I never saw them. Nothing, but sounded like there was a bunch out there. So that was it, guys. 0 on the scoreboard for Black Friday. It was rough. So I didn't do anything Saturday, and nothing on Sunday. Sunday, keep the Sabbath. Nothing on Sunday. I don't hunt on Sundays. But before I get into today's hunt, aka Monday, Cyber Monday's hunt. There you go. Oh man, I don't shop Black Friday or Cyber Monday, but it's a good reference point. But what was it? Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Alamo actually had a chance to go out and waterfowl hunt. Now, unfortunately, not unfortunately. Fortunately for me, I had work, but unfortunately, I couldn't go hunting. But he had the time and was able to get out and go hunt with a guy he knows. And they actually went to a place I was wanting to go to, but a little more on that later. There's a lot. But I wasn't able to get out there with them. But they said they saw decent birds, but everything was flybys. And so that's kind of promising to me. There's birds in the area, cold front's coming in, and I had the time today, Monday, Cyber Monday, to get out there and get after it. And that was the goal. That was the goal, guys. But to access this area they were in, it required me to take the Dragonfly 3, the boat, the 1652 John that I built, all that good stuff, blind on it, the works. And so Sunday night I was trying to hurry, and I didn't realize that I was relatively unprepared for this hunt. I kind of forgot to do that little checklist that I mentioned a couple times in the podcast, and it kind of bit me on time. And I didn't like that. I was frustrated, and I don't like doing that stuff in the evening, when it's time to unwind. And I like to spend that time with my wife and the kids, and just evenings are off limits for me. I don't like to do a lot in the evenings. I try to do everything before that. That way it's, winding down at the end of the day. We can rest, relax, all that good stuff, and enjoy our time together. However, I was behind the ball. I thought there was only a handful of things I needed to do. Turns out there was a little more. And the reason it turned out to be a pain in the butt was that the outboard, the 40-horse Johnson, the old 1986er, on the Dragonfly 3 didn't want to crank. And I have had starter solenoid issues with this thing since the day I got it. Well, actually, when I got it, I didn't have one. And that, in hindsight, that's kind of makes sense now, because I've replaced it 3 times this year. Now, I'm no marine mechanic. I do know a fair amount, but as far as the wiring on this and whatnot, something is out of kilter. And if you guys know anything about old Johnson outboards, reach out to me. I could really use the help, because this thing has turned into a nightmare. So I in the garage, I turned the key just to see if it crank. Nothing. Dead. And I knew the battery was charged because I plugged it in and it was charged. I checked voltage on the battery. I checked voltage to the solenoid, and had the proper voltage to the solenoid. Solenoid wasn't doing anything. And so I attempted to swap it out. It didn't work. And weirdly enough, I just said the heck with it. I've spent too much time messing with this thing. I'm just going to, the new one wasn't working right. I don't know what's up with it. So I took the old one, put it back in just to hold the wires pretty much. And I had a little short battery jumper, and not like jumper cables that clip on, but it's for those of you guys who have a 24 volt system, 36 volt system, and whatnot for your trolling motor, where it may be. It's a jumper between terminals on a battery, not to jump start it. But I had one of those laying around that I'd used previously when I had fits with the starter solenoid, and I just turn the key, jump the solenoid, and start the engine that way. And so I said, heck with it. I've spent too much time doing this. I'm running out of time. I'm just going to do that. So I threw a can of starting fluid in the boat, threw that in the boat, and got the old solenoid put on there basically just to hold the wires. And yeah, just out of curiosity, after I spent all that time doing that, and thank my lovely wife, God bless that woman for helping me. She actually did help me a lot with decoys, a lot of other stuff. I can't remember what all she was doing. I kind of made a list of things I need to get done, and before I know it, she's got most of it done. And I was shocked, and here I am monkeying around with this outboard that's been nothing but trouble, and she's busted out this list for me, and she hasn't even waterfowl hunted yet. So that's pretty cool, you know. So thanks, sweetheart. If you ever listen to this, I appreciate it. I know I told you that before, but I'm telling you now. Anywho, so just out of curiosity, once I got the old solenoid on there, I hit the key just to see what happened. It cranked. Made zero sense to me whatsoever because it wasn't doing anything before. Didn't change any of the wiring. Put it back on the same way, and it cranked. All right, whatever. So I left the starting fluid and the jumper in there, and that was about it. Got everything packed up, and then morning rolls around, hook the boat up, and take off. And so I get to the place I'm going. I'm definitely not going to tell you guys because I really like the spot. It's not like it's a high production area, but I really like this spot. Yeah, I'm being a little selfish. I'm sorry. But if you go hunting with me, you'll know. But I don't want to broadcast anything because I don't want to ruin it for somebody else. And I don't want to, I really don't want to get a lot of traffic out on the places I like to go just because, and I'm being honest here, guys, they're not great spots. They're not. But they're spots I can go to. And I want to keep it that way. But, so I get out there. I get the decoys out of the truck in the boat. I get the gun in the boat. I get everything in the boat. Back up. Launch the boat. Getting ready to get the boat off the trailer. I hit the key. It cranks for about half a second and then nothing. So, all right. Instead of monkeying with it, I pulled the hood off. Hit it with some starting fluid. Jumped it. Breathed some life into it with the old starting fluid there, the old shot of adrenaline for the outboard, and got it running. It sounded great. It sounded like everything was running. It was warming up. I left it at low idle. I beached it, left it at low idle, pulled the truck up, got whatever else situated, came back, got in the boat, and took off. And the spot I was wanting to go to is up a channel. Basically, you head to the mouth of the marsh, the start of the marsh, and work your way around, and it's there. But I get not even halfway there, and I start running into skim ice. Now it's not. It was white ice, and so the little bit of snow we had and the freezing temperatures, it turned to slush on the surface. Then it locked up a little bit, and so it was the really cloudy, not safe for anything ice, and idled down and slowly making my way through breaking ice for a while. And then I realized that I'm not even halfway there, and I'm going to be breaking ice the whole time. And odds are if the way there is locked up, then there's going to be decent ice on where I'm going. And so I called an audible and decided to try and find a different spot closer to where I was. And that turned out to be a nightmare because I never really scouted spots in that area. I mean, I fished that place a lot, but I've never actually looked for spots where I could float a boat next to shore or anything like that. And so I found one spot which was good with the wind, good cover, would have worked out great. Couldn't get the boat close. Ran out of water. So not only am I running out of water, but I'm running into ice. It was a nightmare. And then by the time I realized this spot wasn't going to work, the outboard cuts out. And I was like, great. Okay, now I'm going to be stuck out here. Because as soon as the outboard cut out, it dawned on me that I left the remote for my Minn Kota in the truck. And I'm about almost a mile from the truck. Bummer. So, pull the hood off again, give her some starting fluid, jump it again. It ran off the starting fluid, didn't want to run. Ran off the starting fluid, didn't want to run. And so I finally, in those little spurts, I managed to get out away from the ice a little bit. And I noticed it wasn't spitting water out of the impeller or out of the port. So the impeller there was too much junk in the water. It couldn't suck up the water. And I knew I needed to get that thing clean. I didn't want to burn up my impeller out here, which odds of it overheating, not likely. The water, obviously, it's cold enough to freeze. and the air temp was cold. So I left the hood off, and I wasn't worried about overheating, but I still wanted that working just for that assurance. And so finally got out of that spot, got the motor running ish, and it dies again. And so with all that going on, it was a pain in the butt. It was a nightmare. And then I realized that the primer bulb for the fuel line was collapsed. I'm like, oh, what the heck? That's why. And so the first thing I did is I opened the gas can to see if it was just pulling too much vacuum on the gas can. Whatever. I checked that there was fuel in there. Obviously, I checked it the night before. I checked it again while I was out there, and so I left it cracked. And then I basically just started massaging that thing to get pressure back in it. And then I got to run for a little bit. And while it stayed running, I ran all the way back to the ramp, and I beached it. Got the trolling motor remote, ran all the way back. And mind you guys, I've been out here for like 2.5 hours at this point. It is almost shooting light, and I've got nothing in the water. I'm not hidden. The blind's not up. Nada. It's like I just put in the water. Bad day. Bad day. And I forgot to mention that I also tried, once I got it running enough, before I ran to the ramp, I tried another spot. That was also a no-go. Same issues. And so I was fighting, trying to find a spot, and the outboard not running for a good hour. And all the meantime, I'm out there. The wind is blowing a good 15 miles an hour steady across the body of water, and so it is pushing me to the opposite shore, and I'm dead in the water. I have no propulsion. I mean, other than the kayak oar that was in the boat, but on the 1652 John, I ain't doing nothing. My best bet, if I couldn't move, was to drop anchor, but fortunately I got the outboard running, ran to the ramp, got the remote, got back out there, and in the meantime, some other guys had gone out, and I wasn't sure where they went. And so I was actually going to the windward side and hoping I could find somewhere to set up, just to get set up. And really, at this point in time, I was so frustrated. I didn't really care about getting birds. It was mostly just a trial run for the Dragonfly 3 with the setup and all that. And so I made my way back towards where I was on the opposite side of the body of water. And then I see a headlight or a flashlight flashing at me. And I had my headlamp on, so I just covered it. You know, hey, I see you. Turned around, found a different spot. Yeah. I found a spot that looked okay-ish. And by this time, it's almost shooting light. I mean, we were within minutes of shooting light. And so I get the trolling motor in the water, and the Minn Kota iPilot deal, it has the anchor feature. So I get in the water, I hit anchor, and I start chucking decoys. It's not ideal, but I got a decent spread out there. Everything looked okay. And then I ram the boat as far as I can up into the skim ice towards shore. I ended up getting about 8 feet away from shore, mostly under a big oak tree. And I said, okay, I'm going to set up. So I got set up, got the blind up, and I'm sitting there. And, while I was throwing decoys, I'm seeing birds fly. And that really bothered me. I was like, crap, here I am just wasting this opportunity. And so I got set up, and I honestly didn't expect to see anything after that. There was a couple flights that I saw that looked decent, and didn't see much after that, guys. Well, I didn't expect to see anything after that, I should say. And so I'm sitting there and looking for birds. I'm out there. I might as well make the best of it because it's been a crap day so far. Absolute textbook nightmare hunt so far, minus being in the water. Not waiting. But it was so frustrating. So I got set up, and I'm sitting there, and I finally decided, after being out there for about 3 hours, yeah, I'll throw the waders on just to keep me warm. And it's well into shooting light, and I've seen I saw a 2-pack go by, saw a solo bird go by. I called to them. They kind of circled, didn't really pay much attention. They circled, and just kept going. And then I had one decent flock that was on the water a good 100, 200 so yards south of me that they were feeding, loafing around. And they, for whatever reason, I think an eagle actually scared them or something. They took off and started flying. And so as they passed me, I hit him. I just hammered a greeting call. Got a couple greetings in there. They circled, and as they went by again, they looked like they were just going to keep heading south. And I grabbed my cut down call and just hammered them again. And they circled again, and they never really, they kind of got in that circling pattern. They weren't really working too well, and they ended up taking off. And oddly enough, before they took off, well, they took off out of range of me, but they were down next to the cattails where these other guys ended up setting up. And I'm watching this, once they got out of range of me having any chance to do anything, I just shut up and just watched the show. And I didn't hear any calling from those guys. Nothing. I couldn't see their decoys. It's not saying they didn't have decoys out, whatever. I didn't hear any calls, didn't hear anything. And these birds are just circling. I'm guessing they had decoys out because they're circling in their area like they want to land. I mean, a couple of times they looked like they were coming into land. They dip in and then circle. Come back, dip in a little bit more and circle. I don't know what was going on. I didn't hear any calling, but man, these birds they looked like they were about to land in their decoys. And then lo and behold, after a couple, 2 or 3 loops, these birds came in another pass and landed about 50 yards east or west of these guys' decoys. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Wake up. But no, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they weren't even there. I don't know. But so there were birds in the area for sure. Nothing really wanted to come in, and I was on the windward side of the lake, hoping the birds would. The wind was kind of northwest-ish, and I was facing west. I was hoping the birds would kind of come in and hit the back of the spread. It didn't really work too well, and that was about it. And then pack up by myself. Getting the boat packed up, getting the blind put up, getting the decoys pulled, all that stuff was an absolute nightmare. By the time I was getting ready to leave, I stayed way too long. I shouldn't have stayed so long because it wasn't worth it. But by the time I was getting ready to leave, the boat was frozen in to where I'd already broke ice to get in there. And so that was fun getting the boat out. And I got the boat out. Now the wind is just blowing. I mean, good 20 mile an hour. And nose the boat in the wind to head towards my decoys. And that was a fight, running the trolling motor, hooking a decoy. And it was just a nightmare, guys. Absolute nightmare. No birds to bring home, and an absolute nightmare. And then the outboard problems, all that crap. Just a pain in the butt. A pain in the butt, guys. So no bueno. It was still better than sitting on the couch, that's for sure. But man, it was a lot of work. And it didn't turn out any way close to what I'd hoped for. Ideally, I mean, worst case scenario for me, what I hope for is I find a decent a decent place to set up, get a decent spread going, and I have the best chance possible, whether the birds want to respond or come in or whatever, or whether there's birds at all. My portion of it that I can control, I like to be on the ball, and I felt like that just couldn't happen today. It was so frustrating, absolutely frustrating. But that's hunting, guys. That's the weather. You can't. I mean, I had no idea that place was going to have ice around it like that. Usually it doesn't for a good while, but hey, lesson learned. But hopefully next weekend with the warmer temperatures, that ice will clear up and get out there and get after them again. I expect a lot more traffic on the weekend, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll hit up Alamo and see if he can go. I'm not sure if he's got plans, but we'll see what happens. Man. But the one thing I will say is I'm glad I didn't give up, because there were several times that I thought I'm just going to head to the ramp and call it a day. I'm sick of this. I'm frustrated. It was an absolute nightmare, guys. But when God made me, he forgot to put the quit in there. And so even sometimes when I think I would be wiser not to keep going, I don't know. Who knows? It threw my whole day off. There's always tomorrow, guys. There's always tomorrow, right? So, not sure where I'm going to go tomorrow. But, oh, man. I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going to go tomorrow, guys. But I got to figure that out. Anyways, it's good news. I got the boat in the garage. Hopefully it thaws out a little bit. It looks like there's some water on the ground, so hopefully it's thawing out a little bit. The garage isn't heated, but it's better than being out in the snow. I do have the Mr. Heater right now on the lower unit on low, just to make sure any moisture in there has it's able to drain without freezing. So I don't have that problem with the outboard. But who knows, guys? Just the, like the mission statement says, like the mission statement says, oh boy, it's been a day. Sharing my outdoor experience, and that doesn't mean it's all good. That doesn't mean it's lights out every time. That doesn't mean I'm getting a limit every time. I've never got a limit, and but I also solo hunt for the most part. Working on that though. But good, bad, or ugly, guys, I'm sharing my experience with you, and hopefully you guys can learn something from this. Worst case scenario, if you had a bad day, you're not the only one. It was an absolute struggle, and honestly, guys, I'm probably never going to solo hunt the boat again. I'm going to use it to take the kayak out somewhere and hunt from the kayak because that was an absolute nightmare by myself. The Avery Quickset blind, it works good, but the set part is quick. The stow part, on the other hand, is a pain in the butt. It takes a while. A lot going on. It was a lot of work. I'm exhausted, but it was fun. It was fun, and another day of hunting under my belt. That's all I can say. Live and learn, improvise, adapt, and overcome. And that's about it, guys. That's about it. Hopefully, guys, like I said, I can talk to Tallahassee. Sorry, Tallahassee. I'm not talking to you about hunting because you didn't want to go hunting, I guess. I don't know. Maybe you did. If you do, reach out to me. Talk to Alamo about going hunting. We'll find somebody to go hunting. We'll see what happens. And hopefully, guys, like I said, the weather's pushing birds in, and hopefully I can figure something out. Until that, guys, until next time, I should say, get out there, stay safe, stay warm, be smart, and go chase some birds, go chase some deer, see what happens, and get some meat on the table. That being said, guys, I hope you have a great day. I'll catch you next time. Peace. Check out Hastings Outdoors on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening.